as he's aching to do. Black-red mid-range is not a misnomer. What's he got in his deck, dude?
Well, we talked about this, actually. Jonathan and I hung out last night. He said he was working on a Rakdos deck. Lightbane Zombie, Desecration Demon, Stormbreath Dragon, Zava, the Blood Witch, Pack Rat, alongside Rakdos Return with Baravos, Thoughtseize, Anger the Gods, Dreadbore. So a lot of removal spells and some high-quality threats.
See Thoughtseize here from Job. He's going to go down to 18. He's going to see a hand of Searing Spear, War Leader's Helix, Magma Jet, Sacred Foundry, Boros Guildgate, Mountain. Yes, Forrest Mead is playing Red-White Burn, playing a deck list that's very similar to what won in Seattle last weekend, but this deck is really starting to pick up a little bit here. Mead, former Star City Games employee, used to be a buyer for us before he took another job and moved out to this area. Same, him and Glenn Jones actually work together now.
Yeah, they live in the Fullerton area.
Yeah. So he is playing a burn-based deck. You see Thoughtseize is going to take care of Magma Jet. We're going to be underway here in round number 4 of 10. Mead will take a draw. It's a Boros Charm. There's a Boros Guildgate, pass the turn back.
And I really like taking Magma Jet there, even though there's some more objectively powerful cards, because Forrest's hand isn't terribly good, and Jonathan does not want to allow him to scry.
There's a copy of Blood Crypt coming to play tap. Pass the turn back over to Mead, who draws a Mutavault for the turn. We'll see if he wants to deploy that land or just play a mountain, and he will play the mountain before passing the turn back to Job, who will take a draw here. His copy of Desecration Demon, and we'll see what the follow-up is going to be.
Well, Jonathan is all on high-quality cards. That's his entire deck here, basically. So getting one of his threats in play is going to be really good, particularly Desecration Demon, as the burn deck not really flush with answers.
And you see another copy of Thoughtseize. Forrest points out exactly what he did draw for the turn. So we'll see what Job wants to take with his Thoughtseize.
And it's funny, you know, even in matchups where you would assume Thoughtseize would be bad, like a burn-based strategy, Thoughtseize is still plenty good. Giving Jonathan having the information about what he has to play around and getting to take Forrest's highest quality cards, very valuable.
Decisions for Job. I mean, the goal here should be, I think, just to clear the way for Desecration Demon. Like that, whatever he needs to do that.
Exactly.
He's going to take War Leader's Helix just past the turn. So Boros Charm's going to go upstairs, going to knock Job down to 12. Mead will draw another copy of Boros Charm, play a Mutavault, pass the turn back.
And Boros Charm here, just an excellent draw. Another Thoughtseize for Job. The third one, not as good as the first two.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that the first two were even good. I mean, they were perfectly fine. So there's another copy of Boros Charm. It's going to go put Job down to 8. Looks like Mead drew an Ash Zealot for the turn, so he's going to play a Mountain.
I mean, Ash Zealot can effectively be a burn spell here, as Forrest can sacrifice the Mutavault to tap down the demon if he was feeling so inclined.
I'm just going to pass the turn back. So Zealot can, like, conceivably control the demon a little bit here, but at the same time, demon might just be stuck on defense now. It might not be allowed to attack.
Yeah, and actually with Lightning Strike in hand, if I was in Forrest's seat, I think I would have taken that opportunity to sacrifice Mutavault and get in for 2 more damage, knocking Job down to 6. As with Lightning Strike in hand, that opens up a lot more outs.
They draw another one. It's obviously game over. One of his other copy of War Leader's Helix, another copy of Boros Charm. As you mentioned, there are draws allow him to close the door immediately.
Yeah, and Job is playing, you know, maybe Forrest doesn't exactly know what Job's doing, but he has mountains and swamps. It's realistic to assume that you're not going to get another shot to really attack with some of these smaller creatures.
So Demon Trigger's put on the stack. Forrest says you can attack me if you want to. Job decides not to. Forrest just puts the old burn spell upstairs. There's a Chain to the Rocks. Off of the top.
Never mind. Now Forrest is getting really paid off for his decision to hang back with that play last turn.
Activate Mutavault in. You see Job has a Hero's Downfall in his hand, so he's going to have to kill something. What do you kill in this situation, the land or the Zealot?
He's going to take care of the Mutavault here. It depends a lot on the removal suite. You know, if he's playing something like Ultimate Price, then he wants to leave Ash Zealot in play so he can then kill the Ash Zealot. It depends how the removal lines up.
Okay.
In the abstract, I usually like killing the creatures. Stormbreath Dragon here, as it requires more mana out of Forrest to do his thing.
Job obviously can't afford to attack in this situation, so I don't think it would be. I think it would be very I don't think an attack is like ridiculous. It's certainly not good, but like if he feels like he needs to shorten the game, he can just attack you, push you to 16, go down to 1, and hope to fade a bunch of draw steps. Like it's not like just really clear cut and dry thing if he can't attack.
Yeah, because it only changes if Forrest draws something that deals exactly 2 points of damage. So we're looking at Shock or Ash Zealot or Chandra's Phoenix. But Job certainly can't sit on his heels all day because Forrest has so many draws to kill him, so he's got to try to shorten the game.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where Job needs him to just brick a bunch, which he obviously did that turn. So Job's going to go down to 1. Forrest is at 16. Job draws his card for the turn.
It's a Blood Witch.
Yeah, it's Xava Rakdos Blood Witch, which he obviously, well, I mean, he could unleash it and leave the dragon back on defense. So here is Xava. Really, really powerful underplayed card.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope this thing gets its run in standard while it's here because this card is absolutely bonkers.
There's a lot of really good gold cards in Ravnica Block, and some of them have seen very little play.
Mead draws his card. He drew a Chain to the Rocks. In we go. There's a Searing Blood. Yeah, first strike damage. So what happens there is, obviously Joe blocks, and then first strike damage resolves. Before regular damage happens, Searing Blood your guy, it's going to die because there's already 2 damage on it, and then 3 damage from Searing Blood will happen. So that's going to do it. Forrest Mead is going to win game number 1 here over Jonathan Job. And I, truthfully, I really like that attack by Job with the Stormbreath Dragon on that turn because, again, sitting back is like this super, like, kind of cautious thing, but it's not a play that allows you to win the game.
Yeah,
and that's the goal.
It looks weird on the surface. I understand it, but Jonathan there, time is not on his side. Forrest has so many draws that kill him. The best way to maximize his odds of winning that game are to hope that Forrest misses a draw step for 2 or 3 turns, and the fact that you win aggressive shortens the length of the game.
We're taking the sideboards here. Job will be on the play for game number 2, and you've got that in front of you.
2 Inner World Connections, a Doomblade, a Rakdos Return, 3 Grey Merchants, some Duresses, some Slaughter Gains, kind of a mishmash of additional discard spells and additional removal. I would anticipate the Duresses are going to be coming in. I also think Grey Merchant obviously is, even just draining for 2 is pretty valuable in this matchup. Job has a lot of cards that he could theoretically be cutting in this matchup. He has Lifebane Zombie, which is not his best here, and some, he's got 2 copies of Read the Bones alongside his 4 Thought Seizes, so he's taxing his own life total a fair bit. So a lot of cards that Job could comfortably cut and upgrade with some removal spells and Duresses.
Take a look at Mead's sideboard here. A Stormbreath Dragon, 1 copy of War Leader's Helix to go along with his 2 in his main deck. 4 Mizium Mortars, a Chain to the Rocks, 4 Fire Drink Crusader, and 4 copies of Skullcrack. Skullcrack, an easy one to come in here, of course. I think he can assume he's playing in some number of Grey Merchants. We know that number is not very high, but it's greater than 0, so you're going to want to bring those in. How do you feel about Fire Drink Crusader in this matchup, especially when you're on the draw?
Well, I think that, with Job, again, having black mana and red mana, you just had to assume he has access to a ton of removal. And so Fire Drink Crusader is unlikely to be very good. Also, he could have access to things like Mizium Mortars, for all you know. It could be some of his removal spells. And in that world, it's a disaster to have Fire Drink Crusader. So I think Forrest would be best served by just leaving those on the bench.
And then, the 1 Stormbreath Dragon, 1 War Leader's Helix, I think those cards are both fine. The Chain of the Rocks is okay. I think the only exciting card here is Skullcrack.
Yeah. And Skullcrack even, I'm dubious about bringing in against removal-heavy decks to begin with, because the fight is often about Desecration Demon, and whenever you're cutting creatures from your deck to add in Skullcracks, you just land in more draws where they have Demon on 4 and you just don't have the tools to power through it. Now, Forrest is in a slightly different situation in that he has access to a card like Chain of the Rocks, gives him a nice clean answer. So that makes Skullcrack a little bit more attractive, but I don't think it's a guarantee card that comes in here.
One of checking in on Twitter here, again, at SCG Live, hashtag SCGLA. Danny West, who does our Commander videos with David McDarby. Both those players are here. Danny chiming in. For what it's worth, Forrest Mead is playing on camera right now, and I'm in love with him.
Okay.
Isn't that adorable?
That is very nice.
It's a very nice thing to say,
It's a good
Danny.
sentiment. Not enough of that gets said in the Magic community.
I agree with you. If you guys want to chime in on Twitter, Patrick and I can check your tweets all weekend long as we do make it through this Standard Open. Again, we were just around 700 players here this weekend in Los Angeles, so we appreciate everybody coming out, representing for the West Coast. I know we're not over here a ton, but when we do come, they come out in droves.
Yeah, no, and LA's got a great scene for Magic and especially Legacy, so tomorrow will be a blast too. A big problem that I think that Job has, structurally in the matchup is there's almost no way for him to modify his deck in such a way that Searing Blood isn't good against him. He has 4 Pack Rats, he has 4 Lifebane Zombies, and 4 Mutabolts, alongside actually Rakdos Key Rune as well.
Okay.
So even if you assume the Lifebane Zombies get cut in this world, he's still exposed pretty heavily to Searing Blood, alongside his 4 Thought Seizes and 2 Read the Bones. So he's doing a lot of damage to himself. There's no way realistically for him to sideboard out all of these cards. And Searing Blood could potentially be a big headache.
It's about time Searing Blood got its time in the sun.
When I saw that card previewed in a standard format that contained Mutavault, there's no doubt in my mind that it was eventually going to be a major impact constructed player.
It's got to get some run.
Yeah.
It's just too good not to.
Too good. And, the concern with those kind of effects is, well, what happens when it's dead? I'm playing against control decks with no creatures. I have this thing stranded in my hand. But in a standard format where the most powerful card is Mutavault, which is my opinion, even the control decks are going to have targets for that card.
Yeah.
And when you're actually resolving it on spells your opponent had to spend mana on, the Ash Zealots and Elvish Mystics of the world, it is huge upside.
Well, game 2 will be underway here in just a moment. Jonathan Job on your right, he will be on the play with his black-red mid-range. You can kind of classify it as mono-black devotion with a splash of red. We've seen decks like this starting to crop up a little bit here, splashing for Rakdos' return in Slaughter games.
I don't know if you can, once we're in Stormbreath Dragon territory, I don't think it's fair to say we're splashing red. This is a black-red deck.
Fair enough.
But yeah, at Grand Prix Buenos Aires, a mono-black devotion list splashing for Mizium Mortars, I would imagine, largely to shore up Blood Baron, and a couple other red cards performed quite well.
So 7 cards coming for both players. We'll see if they're able to keep their 7 and have a good quality game here in game number 2.
Yeah,
Job looks like he's happy.
I think Job's best game plan here is duress effects into a demon.
Yeah.
Or one of his large creatures. Stormbreath Dragon isn't even particularly easy for the red-white burn list to answer.
Yeah, it's 4 toughness is kind of the flashpoint.
And pro-white means that Chain of the Rocks doesn't. For the bigger stuff, Chain of the Rocks is supposed to clean that up. So.
That and War Leader's Helix, and neither obviously get the job done in this
Absolutely.
matchup. So Mead's going to take a mulligan here. Question I actually have about the burn deck, because I haven't got to see it very much, played against it a couple times on Magic Online, is how well does this deck mulligan?
It's pretty poor. You do have a couple high-impact cards. Chandra's Phoenix can be really powerful when you mulligan, because in this deck, getting it back and recasting it's a pretty easy thing to do. And you also have a couple cards. Stormbreath Dragon is a high-impact card. Mutavault can be both a land and a spell in a lot of spots, but since you're trying to build up a critical mass, mulliganing is pretty rough. You're really leaning on your scry effects to tighten up your draw steps to make sure you have enough resources to work with.
Mead is happy enough with his 6 cards. We're underway in game number 2 as Job is going to play a Rakdos Guildgate before passing back.
Yeah, 2 Guildgates in this list alongside the Temples and Blood Crypts.
Was curious to see if Forrest was going to bring in Fire Drinker Satyr, and he did do that. Maybe the thought process here is that he thinks Job's just going to bore out a bunch of removal. Here's a Pack Rat. So Mead is going to take a draw. It's an Ash's Zealot.
Yeah. Also the creatures are really valuable in overcoming mulligans.
Yeah, sure.
When your deck's all spells, it's very hard to mulligan, but when you have Ash Zealots and you can kind of play a normal game, it's not nearly as bad.
There's Lightning Strike from Mead. He says, get that Pack Rat out of here. I don't want to deal with that thing. In with the Fire Drinker Satyr. Passes the turn back. So as Job takes his turn here, another question for you. A lot of interesting decisions happening throughout this match. You see a Duress here. Going to show a Chain of the Rocks and Mortars, Ash Zealot, and a Temple of Triumph. Do you like striking there first, or do you like attacking the Fire Drinker Satyr, maybe offering up the trade?
I would have played Ash Zealot that turn and attacked with both.
Yeah?
Yeah, because, your Fire Drinker Satyr probably just does not have a very long shelf life. There is some chance that Job just does not block, and you're actually happy even in that world because you hit for 4, and you have the tools to deal with Pack Rat in hand. So I would have just attacked for 4. If Job blocks and trades his Pack Rat for your Satyr, that's fine. And if he doesn't block, then arguably that's even better for you.
Okay. It seems like turn 2 would be so easy, but there's actually just 3 decisions to be made there. Do you Lightning Strike pre-combat or at all? Mm-hmm. Do you attack with the Satyr and then offer up the trade, or do you just play Ash Zealot and jam for 4?
Yeah. There's also an argument to even pump the Satyr if Job doesn't block there instead of Lightning Striking, because you can deal with the second Pack Rat token the following turn.
Sure.
So there's a lot of permutations to that last turn.
Well, there is the Ash Zealot we spoke of. It's going to come across. You see Mead is going to play Temple of Triumph, leave the card on top, pass the turn back over to Job, who after resolving his duress took that Chain of the Rocks. He knows about the cards in Mead's hand. Here's a Lifebane Zombie. You see a Mizium Mortars and a Stormbreath Dragon. See what Mead kept on top. Wouldn't be surprised if it's just another land. It's actually an Ash Zealot. He's going to come into the red zone here.
I like not offering up the Satyr here, as you can Mortars next turn if Job doesn't do anything.
Job going to draw his card. It's a Blood Crypt. Now he does have 2 copies of Grey Merchant of Asphodel in his hand. The question is, can he get to them? Blood Crypt going to come and play tap, pass the turn back.
And even if he does get to them, are even going to be good enough? I mean,
Yeah.
we're not talking about some big gray merchant here.
There's mortars to clear out the zombie. Here's an attack for 6. Going to put Job down to 4. Job needs to draw a land to even get himself back into this game. It's a duress. Shows 2 gray merchants and extends the hand. So Forrest Mead with red-white burn dispatches Jonathan Job very quickly. Him and his black-red mid-range deck have a loss. Very